Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. How do I even begin this? One of the largest discussions constantly now within the cryptocurrency space, and I guess maybe even also a number of years ago, has been the this is crazy, has been the idea of Bitcoin overtaking other assets. Not sure if you saw, but in a couple of videos ago, we were discussing how the US dollar, and the reason I say that one first is because it's the world reserve currency as we currently have it. The US dollar in the last 10 years, you can Google it, has lost 99% of its value compared to Bitcoin, the world reserve currency. When I first got into the cryptocurrency space, one of the things that intrigued me the most was the idea of not only getting into a brand new currency as it was just coming to be, but I heard tales constantly of how Bitcoin was going to absorb other currencies, how Bitcoin was going to basically, and I say this lightly, ruin other assets. So bringing it on back as well, from about 2 weeks ago at this point, there was a video where I was discussing on Instagram, and maybe it's on TikTok as well. I don't use TikTok. I don't want to have like 9,000 apps on my phone. People were reposting this video, once again, of a TV show called $1 Million Listing. And it's incredibly significant, and you need to understand why. And in the episode, someone was trying to sell an apartment for $5 million. Amazing. They got an offer that was around $4.7 million, and that's because the offer was in Bitcoin. The offer was for 50,000 Bitcoin, and the person selling the apartment said no. They don't want Bitcoin, this fake, weird currency. And that Bitcoin, equivalent now, is worth more than $3.3 billion. The apartment itself is worth around $25 million, so there's a nice profit for the person who bought the apartment, who held the apartment. However, the apartment, compared to Bitcoin's value, the apartment has lost 99.9% of its worth, its value, standing next to Bitcoin. I was just chatting with a friend. Hello, if you're watching. He might be doing something else. He was telling me that his old boss bought an apartment in the center of town where he was living before and how absolutely beautiful it was. And we were discussing, property prices and things like that. And when he told me, I was like, what was the value of it before? And we went over current numbers as far as we could find them. And I was asking when he bought the apartment compared to like now. And I was like, that apartment has also lost 99% of its value. And that's just in less than the last 10 years. This discussion brings me to something that I often think about. Maybe I'm in the space a little bit too much. Where this market is going. And I don't mean just price-wise. I mean, realistically, what in the world is going on right now? I think within the cryptocurrency space, we exist in like a little bubble. There are bubbles everywhere. The bubbles inside of bubbles. We are in the financial bubble, inside of a cryptocurrency bubble, inside of like a blue chip coin kind of bubble as well, where we exist knowing Bitcoin. And I'm always surprised when people know and have heard of Bitcoin or even have invested in it. Seeing the amount of people who are in this market compared to, 6, 7, 8 years ago is one of the weirdest things in the entire world, because I'm used to just us being here and no one else really understanding exactly what we're talking about. When you talk about that Bitcoin has been around for just about 15 years or so, one of the main discussions that I like to have is if the US dollar has lost 99% of its value in 10 years to Bitcoin, how much higher in price is Bitcoin going to go? And what else also ends up faltering or falling compared to Bitcoin? You might have heard, and I'm sure you have. If you haven't, welcome to the world. One of the main discussions is Bitcoin becoming digital gold. A month or two ago, which was not major news at all, is that Bitcoin's value had risen so high that it actually surpassed the market capitalization of all the silver on the planet. All the silver, all of it, on the planet was surpassed by Bitcoin. The mantra has been at some point Bitcoin is going to overtake gold. The really weird issues that we find ourselves in is that in many ways Bitcoin already has. People are looking at market cap and they're not looking at the fact that over the last 2 years, if you've been paying attention to the channel, there are a lot of companies, a lot of institutions, a lot of, I don't want to say the word banks, people with money have actually been selling off their gold and getting rid of their gold ETFs and other allocations into gold to actually put into Bitcoin. That's already a gigantic first step. We had the news before from BlackRock that they said that they were talking to their clients and they have actually suggested a... So normally you hear that the allocations for different things that you are investing in is normally around 1%, maybe 5%, depending on how it is. We saw an article that BlackRock told their clients, their richest clients, that they should have a 28% allocation into Bitcoin. Right, which is also a little bit insane. One of the news stories that was not picked up at all, was not popular, was not really anywhere, was that once the Bitcoin halving this year was going to take place, Bitcoin was actually going to become the rarest and most scarce asset that we have on the planet. Even crazier, when the halving happened, I assumed that that news would have been picked up and people would have been talking about it. Lo and behold, no one talked about it at all. When you talk about Bitcoin overtaking gold and becoming the dominant source of not only value, but also when we see that now there are currently governments who are buying and mining Bitcoin, and that also doesn't really make it into the public consciousness, it just kind of lets me know, one, how early we are, but also the gigantic effort by, and I don't care for the term mainstream media, but you understand, the larger news organizations, how hard they're trying to make sure that people don't pay attention. This also lends, a wink in Jamie Dimon's direction as well, the head of JP Morgan Chase, who immediately after the halving was talking about how terrible and horrible and awful Bitcoin was. And it's like, you're not doing that for any other asset. Why so much focus and attention on this one thing? The moment the halving happened, a number of things took place. Bitcoin itself became rarer, became more scarce. The reward got cut in half. But the inflation rate of Bitcoin, which is stable, actually fell as well. So the numbers are actually right here. The inflation rate of the US dollar, we are told, is between 4 and 5 somewhere percent, which is also a lie. It's probably closer to 60, 70%. That's not me tinfoil hatting it. It's just realistic. If you look at how much things continue to go up year on year, 4 to 5% is clearly a lie. For those of you who were not here for other videos when we were discussing gold, one of the bigger issues with gold is that we find more gold on the planet year after year. This is just completely logical. We're not living in the 1910s. We're not in 1935. The machines that we have and the technology that we have can more accurately show where there's gold within the ground, within the planet, and we can dig a lot better than having little shovels trying to dig as best we can. We know it's the same exact thing with diamonds, as I've said before. If you've never seen it, the diamond industry is crooked, some people may say, because the amount of diamonds that are actually let onto the market is around 1% of actually what's being found, and the other diamonds are simply being held in caverns and in bunkers and stuff like that. Diamonds are not rare. They're sold as something that is rare. A number of years ago, you can also Google this as well, JP Morgan Chase, surprise, got in trouble because they were told to be manipulating the gold and silver market. The amount of gold, so these companies and these banks, they own also the institutions who are mining this metal from the ground. They also control the supply of what actually ends up being released to make sure to maintain the price. Because the issue is that there's more gold than people are told. Did not mean to Dr. Seuss it there, but you understand what I'm saying. There's far more gold that's actually being found underground than is actually being released or given to companies to be able to put into phones and machines and other things like that. We are often quoted that the inflation rate for gold is anywhere from 1.5 to 2% per year, which is also a lie because that number would logically be increasing as we have easier ways of finding gold. And even more so if you want to really, throw it into the future. There's a reason why you've heard a lot of like eccentric billionaires talking about mining asteroids, because we know that gold is now basically all around the universe. It's in other things. It's on other planets. We just currently don't have the tools to get them, but we will. And then we will have more gold, and logically gold's price would go down, but that, of course, would also be controlled. 1.5 to 2% is the inflation rate that we're normally given for gold. Do you want to know Bitcoin's current inflation rate? Bitcoin's current inflation rate after the halving is 0.84%. It is less than 1%. Even crazier is that in 4 years, that's going to get cut in half once again. Remember when I told you that 2024 was meant to be, and it's said by all analysts, everyone out there, and who really like pays attention, has all these charts in the cryptocurrency space. 2024 is meant to be the shift, the year, not only for us, but for the public to really understand that Bitcoin already is the scarcest asset that we have on the planet. There are people currently, this is not financial advice, I have to say it because I know one person's going to try it. There are people who are already selling off their gold, who are already selling off their stocks. I have a lot of friends who are exiting their positions in other places and or aren't even buying homes because they're planning on buying crypto, they're planning on buying Bitcoin. There's an expectation that a lot of people have that by summer of 2025, one Bitcoin will be worth more than a home, because Bitcoin is also rarer than the housing market. And if that's what happens now, and Bitcoin's already being bought up by everyone, and the demand is far outpacing the supply, in 2028, guess what? It doubles again. It becomes twice as rare and twice more difficult to get for people. And then at that point, we're talking about the potential of $1 million Bitcoin. What property can you buy right now that's $70,000-ish that will go up to $1 million in 4 or 5 years? Very particular time to be in the market, very particular time to be on this planet. If you've been paying attention to a lot of the economic woes in a lot of other countries, their currencies are collapsing against the US dollar, and the US dollar is collapsing against Bitcoin. Yeah. So just thought I'd throw that out there. Maybe someone will watch the video. Maybe people will understand that this was 2017, 2018, when the guy Plan B on Twitter was first talking about Bitcoin. I remember I said it years ago. He kept on saying that 2024 was the year where Bitcoin becomes the strongest asset on the planet. It's just about people actually figuring it out. And the main people who are paying attention right now are once again the ultra wealthy. And this is why you see this massive amount of accumulation for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now the scarcest asset on the planet. Right. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. There will be some articles in the description below for those of you who want to read and or peruse. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.